Speak like a millionaire, and your life will follow. Who? Every word you speak is a seed. And like any seed, it does not question the soil or the weather. It simply grows into what it inherently knows itself to be. When you speak with conviction, with clarity, with inner certainty, the world rearranges itself to match your inner word. Your word is not merely sound, it is law. You have been speaking your reality into being since the first day you learned to form a sentence. The only difference between where you are now and where you long to be lies in the nature of the conversations you've been having with others and with yourself. You may think that what you say is casual, fleeting, forgotten, but the mind, your inner being, listens to every syllable and holds it with faith. When you say, "I'm always broke," the mind doesn't analyze or question. It accepts. When you mutter, "I can't afford it," your consciousness agrees. But when you boldly declare, "I am wealthy, I always attract abundance, everything I touch turns to gold," something shifts. You awaken a dormant power. You engage the law of assumption, which molds reality to the blueprint of your belief. The millionaires you admire, those who seem to move through life effortlessly, who radiate confidence, joy, and abundance, they first mastered the unseen language of the soul. Long before the cars, the watches, the properties, they had wealth in their vocabulary. Their imagination was rich, their inner speech even richer. They were not waiting for money to come before they felt prosperous. They spoke it, thought it, lived it, until reality yielded to their command. It begins in silence. In the quietest moments of your day, what is the tone of your inner voice? Are you scolding yourself, diminishing your worth, replaying the debts, or are you blessing yourself, praising your destiny, celebrating your future? You must train the voice within. If your inner conversations were projected on a screen, would they reflect the life you desire or the life you fear? This is not about pretending or lying to yourself. This is about aligning your inner world with the truth of your being. You are not here to suffer or to lack. You are not meant to scrape and struggle. You are here to express the fullness of life, to be a living witness of abundance, joy, and limitless creation. If you truly wish to be wealthy, you must begin by speaking wealth, intelligently, intentionally, and repeatedly. Speak not just to be heard, but to create. Say things like, "I am aligned with infinite prosperity. I am supported by the universe in all financial matters. Money flows to me freely and frequently." Say them with such conviction that your mind cannot help but believe, and your reality cannot help but reflect. The words must become flesh. Most people speak according to what they see, but the wise speak what they want to see. They do not describe the present. They prescribe the future. Your words are the commands that instruct reality how to shape itself around you. When you say, "Clients are drawn to me, they will be." When you affirm, "My bank account is overflowing," your subconscious begins working toward that end. It seeks matching vibrations, opportunities, synchronicities, and choices that confirm the truth of your speech. Let me be clear. This is not magic in the sense of fantasy. It is spiritual science. The frequency of your voice carries your belief system. When spoken with belief, with emotion, with clarity, it is a spiritual decree. It doesn't matter what your past has been. It doesn't matter what the numbers say in your bank account today. What matters is your command, your word, your daily practice of mental speech that births a new identity. You are not limited by statistics or background or history. You are only limited by your inability to claim who you truly are through the power of speech. The first step is awareness. Begin listening. Catch yourself. When you speak lack, stop. Replace it immediately. If you say, "I can't," say instead, "I am learning how." If you say, "I never have enough," replace it with, "My wealth is expanding daily." This is not denial, it is redirection. You are not denying the facts. You are rewriting them. Millionaire speech is not loud, not boastful. It is quiet, but firm. It is humble, but commanding. It is not about impressing others. It's about impressing upon the subconscious a new truth. It is not spoken once and forgotten. It is repeated, rehearsed, lived. Speak like a millionaire in your bedroom, in your car, in the shower, in the mirror. Speak it when no one is listening, because the universe is always listening. And more importantly, your mind is listening. Feel the words. Don't just say, I am rich. Feel what it means to be rich. Feel the freedom, the peace, the delight, the ease. When you speak it, embody it. Walk as though it is done. Think as though it is done. Act as though it is done. And it will be done. The feeling is the secret. The emotion behind your words is the fuel. Speak with joy, not desperation. Speak with certainty, not doubt. The more you say it, the more real it becomes. Eventually, your identity shifts. And once the identity shifts, the world responds. This is not about empty affirmations. This is about transformational declarations. When you say, I am a millionaire, you are not just describing a number. You are describing a state of being. You are stepping into an entirely new frequency. That frequency calls for a new mindset, new habits, new environments, new standards. You must be willing to rise into the version of yourself that naturally speaks abundance, that naturally attracts opportunities, that naturally radiates prosperity. You do not need to know how it will happen. You only need to know who you are becoming. Let the how take care of itself. That is the domain of the unseen forces. Your role is to speak, to imagine, to feel, to believe, and to move as though it is already yours. When you speak like a millionaire, you begin to think like one. When you think like one, you begin to act like one. And when you act like one, life follows. The outer world is always trailing the inner. Change your speech, and you change your thoughts. Change your thoughts, and you change your choices. Change your choices, and you change your results. This is the path. This is the formula. It is simple but not always easy. Because the old voice will resist. The voice of limitation will whisper, who are you to say such things? It will remind you of your past failures, your current bills, your unresolved doubts. But you must speak louder. You must drown out the voice of lack with the voice of power. You must rehearse your new identity until it is second nature. Each morning, before the world pulls at your attention, speak your abundance aloud. Say, thank you for another day of wealth and opportunity. Say, I am so grateful to be financially free. Say, today miracles flow to me with ease. And say them as if you already know. Not hoping, not wishing, but knowing. When you align your voice with certainty, the world bows to your command. In your conversations with others, carry the vibration of wealth. Do not complain. Do not gossip. Do not argue for your limitations. Speak possibility. Speak expansion. Speak as though you are already where you want to be. Others may not understand, and they don't need to. This is not for them. This is for you. Your speech is your signature. It tells the universe who you believe yourself to be. You are the author of your experience. Every sentence you speak is part of the script. If you don't like the scene you are living, rewrite the dialogue. Start speaking lines of power, lines of prosperity, lines of joy. The moment you speak them consistently, your role in life will begin to shift. Life is a mirror, always reflecting your innermost assumptions. You are not here to survive. You are here to thrive. But thriving begins with speaking differently. Begin now. Say, I am abundant. Say, I am successful. Say, I attract wealth like a magnet. Say, money serves me, supports me, empowers me. Say it until it becomes the most natural thing in the world. And when doubt creeps in, speak even louder. Your voice is the sword that cuts through fear. The world will offer you countless reasons to stay silent, to conform, to speak like the masses. But you are not here to be average. You are here to be exceptional. And exceptional beings speak exceptionally. They don't describe the darkness. They declare the light. They don't repeat the problem. They reveal the solution. Your future is waiting for your voice. The wealth you desire is waiting for your permission. Speak it into existence. Speak with clarity. Speak with joy. Speak with gratitude. Speak like a millionaire, and your life will follow. It cannot not follow, because the word when spoken with belief becomes flesh. As you speak this truth daily, you will notice the subtle but unstoppable shift. At first nothing may seem different. The world around you may still reflect the echoes of your former speech, your old patterns, your previous assumptions. But just like the ocean responds not to the drop but to the tide, reality responds to consistent vibration, unwavering conviction, and the constancy of belief. One declaration may not shake the world, but repeated declarations, fused with belief and imagination, reform the very foundation upon which your life is built. Suddenly what once felt like a distant dream becomes a natural assumption. You no longer have to try to believe it. You simply do. You no longer have to force the words. They pour out of you with ease. You'll begin to speak from the new state of being, not to reach it. This is the secret to speak from the wish fulfilled, not toward it. When you say, I am wealthy, you are not hoping. It is a remembering. You are recalling your true nature, your spiritual inheritance, your divine right to prosper. That remembrance restores your confidence, recalibrates your choices, and realigns your path. The old identity built upon fear, lack, doubt, and limitation cannot survive in the atmosphere of new speech. It crumbles gently, like ash in the wind, as your new self rises from within. People around you may notice something different. They may say, you've changed, and they would be right. You are no longer speaking the language of the world. You are speaking the language of creation. You are no longer echoing what is. You are commanding what shall be. This transformation does not stay confined to your finances. It bleeds into every area of life. Relationships improve. Opportunities multiply. Confidence blossoms. Because speech, when directed by conscious thought and elevated emotion, affects the whole structure of your reality. A millionaire does not just possess money. They carry a frequency. They think, walk, decide, and speak from a place of empowerment. And you, through daily devotion to your new speech, are tuning into that frequency. You are remembering who you truly are beneath the noise, beneath the labels, beneath the stories you've been told or accepted. You may have once been told, be realistic. But now you know reality is a mirror, not a master. You do not serve it, it serves you, and you give it orders through your voice. Speak with precision, speak with feeling, speak with knowing, and never again let casual conversation rob you of your inheritance. Idle words are costly. They delay the manifestation of your highest good. But conscious words, spoken with love, gratitude, and vision, bring heaven to earth. As this practice becomes second nature, you will find your outer world transforming in ways that feel effortless, even magical. The right clients, ideas, calls, and inspirations will begin to appear. It will feel as if life is finally working with you rather than against you. But it is not life that has changed. It is you. You spoke differently, so life responded differently. You rose in thought, so your world elevated in form. This is the silent revolution. It happens not with noise, not with chaos, but with the quiet power of your word. Each statement you make in alignment with your desired reality is a brick in the mansion of your future. Day by day, word by word, you construct the palace you were born to inhabit. You need no one's permission, no one's approval, no perfect conditions, only the courage to speak as the person you are becoming. When you look back months from now, or even weeks, you will wonder why you ever doubted. You'll see clearly that it was never about external validation, never about hard work alone. It was about the consciousness you held and the words you chose. Your life didn't change because of luck. It changed because you spoke differently, you thought differently, you believed differently. And now wealth is no longer a pursuit. It is an expression of who you are. So continue without hesitation. Speak riches into the silence. Speak success into the stillness. Speak joy into every space. You do not need to convince the world, only yourself. Once you are convinced, the world will adjust accordingly. Speak it until it becomes real. Then speak it because it is real. As you continue in this sacred act of conscious speech, a deeper awareness begins to dawn within you, one that transcends the mere attraction of money or luxury. You begin to see that speaking like a millionaire isn't only about wealth. It's about identity, about truth, about recognizing that you are the operant power in your universe. You no longer seek evidence from the outer world to validate your beliefs. Instead, you understand that belief is the evidence. Inner conviction always precedes external confirmation. You don't speak abundance to impress others. You speak it because it is the language of your soul, the natural rhythm of your spirit when it is unburdened by fear. Every I am you declare becomes a decree. It's not that you're becoming something you are not. It's that you're shedding the lies, the scarcity, the smallness that never belonged to you in the first place. You are unveiling your true self, and your voice is the chisel. Even in moments when doubt tries to return, when the bank balance whispers old fears, or an unexpected bill knocks on your door, You will not flinch. You will speak with even greater power, not because you are trying to escape reality, but because you are now its master. You will say, "This too shall pass, for I am rooted in prosperity." You will declare, "Abundance flows to me regardless of appearances," and you will mean it. You'll notice that money is no longer a stranger or a fleeting visitor. It becomes a faithful companion, a servant to your vision, a natural result of your elevated consciousness. You'll stop obsessing over how much you have, and start enjoying who you've become. For wealth is not measured in digits. It's measured in freedom, peace, and self-expression. And the richest people on this planet are those who have mastered their inner conversations. There will be a day, perhaps sooner than you think, when you will smile at how easily it all unfolded. You'll remember the days when you forced yourself to speak abundance through trembling lips. And you'll laugh, because now it flows effortlessly, like breath. It will seem so natural, so obvious, so inevitable, that speaking like a millionaire was always the secret. That it was never about hustle alone. It was always about belief, emotion, imagination, and the sacred use of the tongue. Others may come to you and ask, "What changed? What did you do differently?" And you may try to explain, but most won't fully grasp it. They'll expect a strategy, a market trend, a hack. And while those things may have played a role, the truth will be far simpler. You began to speak from the end. You began to speak as the one who already had, already was, already knew, and the universe had no choice but to respond. You will have conversations where every word you speak uplifts, where your presence becomes magnetic, where your language is laced with power and peace, and people will want to be near you, not for your money, but for your energy, your certainty, your clarity. Because when you speak like a millionaire, you don't just speak differently. You carry yourself differently. You become a lighthouse in a world of confusion. You become a living embodiment of possibility. And that, more than the riches, will be your greatest reward. As you embody this new way of speaking, thinking, and being, you begin to understand that this practice is not a phase. It's a foundation. It is not a technique you use only when things are hard or when you want to manifest a specific amount. It becomes who you are. You are no longer someone trying to become wealthy. You are someone for whom wealth is the natural state. You are no longer reaching, you are radiating. And because you are radiating, you are receiving. This inner shift begins to influence not just your finances, but your timing, your choices, your intuition. You'll find yourself in the right rooms, the right conversations, the right investments, not by effort, but by alignment. The world rearranges itself not by force, but by frequency. And the words you speak are the tuning fork. Each phrase, each statement, each affirmation tunes your being to a richer vibration. You don't chase wealth, you become the channel through which it flows. In this elevated state, even your definition of wealth transforms. It's no longer only about money, it's about ease, options, time, and impact. It's about the joy of waking up free, the satisfaction of giving without limits, the peace of knowing that you are taken care of in every possible way, that you are divinely backed, spiritually funded, universally supported. All because you dared to speak a different truth long before the evidence appeared. The world as it once was begins to fade. You no longer relate to scarcity, doubt, or waiting. Those frequencies feel foreign, like clothes that no longer fit. You become selective with your speech, intentional with your thoughts. You no longer engage in gossip, fear-driven narratives, or limitations disguised as realism. Your words now carry power. And with that power comes responsibility. You know what you speak will be, so you choose wisely. You choose wealth, peace, joy, expansion, love, and the world echoes your choice. You begin to walk with quiet confidence. You don't need to explain or prove, you simply are. Your energy speaks louder than your voice, and yet your voice amplifies your energy. They work together in perfect harmony. This is the true language of the wealthy, not arrogance, but assurance. Not performance but presence. Not noise but knowing. The beautiful paradox is this: the less you try to get the millionaire life, the more it flows to you. Because now you're not trying to get anything. You're simply expressing who you already are. The trying dissolves. The forcing stops. The grasping ends. And what remains is power. Pure, creative, magnetic power. Power that speaks and it is done. Power that declares and watches mountains move. Power that no longer begs or hopes, but assumes and receives. Every day becomes an opportunity to speak your world into being. You wake up and affirm, this day is a gift. Prosperity surrounds me. Wealth finds me. I am ready. You look at your reflection and say, I am worthy of all I desire. You answer the phone with the expectation of good news. You send emails from the posture of success. You make decisions not from fear of loss but from faith in increase. All of it flows from your speech. Your speech has trained your mind, and now your mind trains your life. When you see others struggling, you will not pity them. You will inspire them. You will remember when you too once spoke in doubt, and you will gently guide them back to their own power, not by preaching, but by example, not by convincing but by demonstrating. Your life will become the evidence that speaking abundance is not fantasy, it is divine law in action. As you continue on this journey, you realize something even deeper. The entire universe is a conversation. Life is not happening to you, it is responding to you. Responding to your inner dialogue, your secret self-talk, your emotional vocabulary. And because you now speak with wealth, think in wealth, move in wealth, the universe can finally respond in kind. As you allow this realization to deepen, you start to feel a sacred sense of responsibility. Not the heavy kind, but the kind that comes with freedom. You know now that you are the author, the scriptwriter, the voice behind the curtain that shapes the play of your life. And so every sentence becomes sacred. Every affirmation becomes an act of creation. Every casual phrase becomes a tool, a lever, a code. You are no longer careless with your words because you understand their weight. You do not speak of lack even in jest, because you know the subconscious takes everything seriously. You do not repeat the narratives of struggle or scarcity, because those no longer apply to the identity you now occupy. Instead, you craft your language as an artist, delicately painting your reality with strokes of wealth, confidence and peace. You say things like, everything always works out for me, not as wishful thinking, but as truth. You speak, I am paid generously for being myself and life confirms it. You declare, I walk in rooms and doors open, and suddenly they do. Your outer world begins to echo your inner world with increasing accuracy, and soon you are living in a new atmosphere, one you once only imagined, but now fully inhabit. And this new environment is not a result of hustle or chance. It is the fruit of new assumptions, spoken into form day after day. You didn't wait for evidence to believe, you believed, and the evidence followed. This is how real power works. It doesn't argue. It doesn't force. It simply speaks, assumes, and allows the unseen laws to unfold the rest. You now find yourself attracting conversations of substance. People around you speak differently too, or they fall away naturally. You align with mentors, partners, friends and clients who speak your language, one of abundance, gratitude and elevation. The more you remain faithful to this inner speech, the more life clears the path in front of you. Ideas come faster. Guidance becomes clearer. Opportunities arrive as though on cue. Because you are no longer reacting to life, you are commanding it with your words. The tension, the anxiety, the gripping fear that once followed you in silence begins to fade. It has no place in your new atmosphere. You no longer wonder, will it happen? But instead walk in the knowing. It is done. And this knowing is not arrogant. It is peaceful. It is not loud. It is steady. It becomes the unshakable foundation upon which your entire life is now built. You are unbothered by delay. Because delay no longer means denial. It simply means alignment is unfolding perfectly. In this state you begin to play with life again. You experiment with declarations just to see how life responds. You say today is a $10,000 day, and watch as channels open. You speak, I am a magnet for high-level wealth, and notice how effortlessly you attract new clients, ideas or gifts. Life becomes fun again. It becomes light. Because you've stopped carrying the weight of the world and started wielding the power of your word. You understand that every I am is a doorway, and so you choose them carefully. You no longer say I am tired, unless you wish to be. You say I am energized, inspired and supported. You do not speak, I am worried, but instead affirm, I am calm and divinely guided. The moment you speak it, you begin to feel it. And the moment you feel it, your state shifts. And when your state shifts, everything else follows. You become immune to the noise of the world. Not because it doesn't exist, but because your inner conversation is louder. You are no longer shaped by circumstances. You shape circumstances. You no longer depend on the economy, the government, or anyone else to decide your wealth. You have tapped into the true source, and that source is within you. It has always been within you. The only difference now is that you've chosen to speak as if it were true, and so it is. As this truth settles into your bones, you find yourself no longer needing to convince yourself. You believe because you have seen the fruit. You trust because you've witnessed the law respond. And now your only mission is to continue this sacred practice, to guard your words like treasure, to use them not just to attract money, but to build a life so aligned, so free, so joyful, that it becomes an example for others. They will ask how you did it, and your answer will be simple. I spoke it. As you continue speaking from this place of unwavering inner conviction, your life begins to gather momentum. Not the frantic, hustling momentum of the old world, but the gentle magnetic pull of aligned energy. The things you once chased now seem to come find you. Emails arrive without effort. Collaborations reach out to you. Opportunities seem to arise out of nowhere. But you know there is no such thing as nowhere. These events were seeded in the invisible, planted by your repeated declarations, watered by your daily assumption, and harvested through the feeling of it already being done. You understand now that speech is not merely sound, it is vibration. And when spoken from a heightened emotional state, your words echo through dimensions far beyond what the eye can see. The world of form bends to the vibrational tone you emit. This is why millionaires speak differently. Not because they are pretending, but because they are vibrating at a different octave of consciousness. And so must you. You speak now from the center of your power, no longer from need or lack or hope, but from fullness, from the end result, from the summit. When you say I am, you are not making a wish. You are stamping your identity onto reality. And when you speak this way long enough, the world accepts your word as law. Life doesn't argue. It doesn't hesitate. It simply conforms. Even the so-called obstacles that once intimidated you no longer hold the same charge. You meet challenges with a different vocabulary. Instead of why is this happening to me, you speak this is unfolding in my favor. Instead of I don't know what to do, you say clarity is flowing to me now. Your language reflects certainty even in the face of uncertainty. And as you speak it, solutions present themselves. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable. Others will notice the shift, not just in your words but in your presence. You carry yourself differently. You enter rooms differently. You hold eye contact longer. You pause before you speak. You no longer feel the need to fill silence with noise, because you know that your silence too speaks of power. You have become a living broadcast of abundance, and it shows. Every conversation becomes a canvas, every sentence a brushstroke. You begin to speak beauty into the lives of others. You uplift without trying. You inspire without effort, because you are no longer trying to prove. You are simply expressing. And that expression carries weight, because it flows from inner congruence. There is no split between what you say and what you believe. They are one. And in that oneness lies the key to all manifestation. You walk through life now as one who is chosen, favored, divinely guided. And it is not arrogance, it is remembrance. You are not waiting to be picked. You have already picked yourself. Your words have become your authority. You have appointed yourself successful, anointed yourself worthy, crowned yourself abundant. And the world, true to its nature, mirrors your decree. And this level of speech becomes a form of worship. Not the traditional kind, but the worship of creation itself. You are in awe of the creative power flowing through you. You honor it with clarity, with repetition, with feeling. You use it not to impress others, but to elevate the world around you. For when you speak abundance, you don't just change your life, you open a portal for others to rise with you. And so you keep going, quietly, powerfully. Every morning you speak as the version of you who already has it all. Every night you fall asleep, rehearsing your success, not as a future event, but as a present fact. In the mirror you speak wealth. In the car you speak freedom. In the shower you speak gratitude. Not out of superstition, but out of knowing. You no longer ask, when will it happen? Because you are too busy living as if it already has. This is your new reality. Not someday, but now. Not maybe,
but absolutely. Not in theory, but in embodiment. Because you dared to speak differently. You dared to assume differently. And that one choice made all the difference. And so with each passing day, your speech becomes more refined, more potent, more aligned with the higher version of yourself. The identity of wealth, of success, of freedom. It no longer feels like a role you're playing, or a future you're reaching for. It feels like home, like the natural expression of who you've always been beneath the noise of the world. And the more you rest in this identity, the less effort you need to exert. Your words become gentle but charged with intention. You speak less, but everything you say lands. You do less, but everything you do multiplies. Even your silence begins to speak. It carries weight. It carries presence. When you walk into a room, people feel something even before you speak. That is the effect of an aligned inner conversation. That is the radiance of someone who no longer negotiates with doubt. You've rehearsed abundance in your mind so consistently that it has imprinted itself on your energy field. You no longer talk about becoming. You speak from being. And from that place, manifestation is no longer miraculous. It is inevitable. When others ask for your secret, they expect a step-by-step formula. But the truth is too simple for many to believe. You changed your speech. You changed what you said to yourself when you woke up in the morning. You changed what you said about money, about opportunity, about your worth. You changed the inner script, and the outer world adjusted itself to match it. No external change could have lasted until the internal speech was transformed. You now understand that money is just a reflection, a shadow of your internal state. You do not chase shadows. You go to the source, your word, your feeling, your assumption. And because that has changed, the shadows fall into perfect order. Even when unexpected circumstances arise, you do not panic. You do not regress into the old vocabulary. You stand firm in your new frequency. You speak with authority over the moment. You declare, this too is part of my expansion. This is a gift in disguise. And just like that, what could have been a setback becomes a setup for something greater. You bend the moment to your favor through the force of your assumption. You have begun to experience the ease that comes when life stops being a battle and becomes a collaboration. You are co-creating with the unseen. You are no longer a passive participant. You are the orchestrator. You set the tone with your speech, and life plays the melody. And what a melody it is! One of wealth, beauty, timing, precision, and grace. Others will still try to measure you by what they can see, by your possessions, your status, your appearance. But you know that the true wealth is in what they cannot see. The inner dominion, the spoken certainty, the peace that cannot be faked. That is the real power, and you carry it now in every word you speak. So you continue, relentlessly, lovingly. You wake up and you speak the truth of your abundance. You go to sleep and reaffirm it. You meet the day not with reaction, but with command. And no matter what appears before your eyes, you no longer flinch, because you no longer rely on what you see. You rely on what you say, what you declare, what you claim. You speak like the one who already has, and because of that you always will. Now this way of speaking has become as natural to you as breathing. It is no longer something you must remember to do. It is simply who you are. You have trained your tongue, rewired your mind, and shaped your emotional world through the conscious repetition of higher truth. You are no longer the person who speaks from circumstance. You are the one who speaks from command. You have discovered that your word is not just influence. It is causation. What you speak in the unseen must be reflected in the seen. It is law. As you live more deeply from this truth, time begins to behave differently for you. What once took months now takes days. What once felt distant now feels near. You realize that manifestation is not tied to time, but to alignment. And alignment is achieved through speech that is in harmony with who you choose to be. When your words, your thoughts, and your feelings form a single current, there is no delay, only unfolding. You do not wait for wealth. You reveal it through your expression. Even your goals begin to shift. You still have dreams, yes, but they no longer come from a place of lack or absence. They now emerge from inspiration, from fullness, from the joy of expansion. You are no longer trying to escape where you are. You are simply building higher levels upon a solid foundation. The stress is gone. The urgency has dissolved. All that remains is clarity, movement, and flow. You look back at the version of yourself that once struggled to believe, who whispered affirmations while questioning them internally. You feel nothing but compassion, because you now understand every word spoken in faith, no matter how small, was building this new version of you. Nothing was wasted. Every "I am wealthy," every "money flows to me," every "I deserve to prosper," was a stone in the path. And eventually those words became the structure you now stand on. Your voice is now your instrument of creation. You wield it wisely. You no longer speak against yourself, even in jest. You do not speak failure, poverty, or fear, not because you're avoiding reality, but because you are defining it. You've realized that what most call realism is just recycled fear. You have chosen a new kind of realism, one where the unseen is more real than the seen, and the inner voice is more trustworthy than the outer noise. You speak not only for yourself now, you speak for others. You affirm abundance for your family, success for your friends, healing for the world. And those affirmations are not weak wishes, they are charged declarations. Because you now understand, the voice that reshaped your world can reshape theirs too. You are a lighthouse, and your words are the beams of light that cut through the fog for others. Even in quiet moments, you catch yourself speaking silently in your mind, affirming, "All is well, my path is clear, infinite good surrounds me now." These are not rituals, these are your new thought patterns. You've turned the tide of thought, and in doing so, you've turned the tide of your life. You've proven to yourself that nothing changes until your language changes. You no longer seek change, you speak it. Through all this, you've come to embody a deep truth. Wealth is not just what you receive, it is what you express. You are wealthy because you carry the wealth of clarity, the wealth of certainty, the wealth of creativity, and boldness and faith. Money is merely one of the many forms that wealth takes as it flows through you, and you no longer fear its coming or going. You are the source through which it appears, and you trust that source without question.
So you walk each day with an invisible crown, one not placed by others, but forged through the repetition of truth. You carry a knowing in your chest that cannot be shaken, a quiet certainty that moves beneath your words like a river. And even in conversations with those who do not yet understand, you no longer feel the need to convince or convert. You simply speak from your center, and your vibration does the rest. There is no strain in your voice now, no grasping or proving. You speak with grace, because grace is the atmosphere you've cultivated. You speak with calm command, because panic no longer lives in your system. You've uprooted it with the daily sowing of empowered speech. What was once nervous hope has become inner authority. You no longer speak as someone becoming, you speak as someone who has already arrived. You recognize the difference between idle words and creative power. You see the way others curse themselves with casual phrases, how they unknowingly build limitations with every "I can't," every "I never," every "it's hard." But instead of judging them, you silently speak higher for them. You say within yourself, they are rising, they are remembering, they are awakening to their power. Because now you understand how contagious creation is. One person aligned with truth can shift the atmosphere of a room. One person who speaks light can dissolve years of darkness. You have become that person, not by chance, but by choice. Not once, but every day. Through consistency, through devotion, through discipline of the tongue. You began as a student of this truth, but now you are its embodiment. You speak wealth and see it. You speak peace and feel it. You speak freedom and live it. And every time you do, you are reinforced. The proof builds. The faith strengthens. The knowing deepens. You've stopped asking if it's working, because you see that you are working. You are working in harmony with laws that never fail. You no longer look to the outer world as your source of confirmation. Your only confirmation is the resonance in your being. When you speak wealth and your body responds with peace, that is your sign. When you affirm success and feel the joy rise in your chest, that is your evidence. You don't need the world to agree with your word. Your word creates the world's agreement. Now you understand why speaking like a millionaire always had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with consciousness. Money was simply one reflection, one fruit of a root system much deeper. You speak like a millionaire because you think like one, and you think like one because you've taught yourself to feel like one. And now all of it,
The thought, the speech, the feeling is fused into a singular frequency that no longer wavers. You carry it into every room, into every phone call, into every message. And without trying, you uplift. Without effort, you inspire. You are no longer just receiving wealth, you are radiating it. And others begin to ask not just how you did it, but how you are being. They sense something unspoken, something unshakable, and they want to find it for themselves. And so your speech continues. Not just for you, but for them. You've become a bridge, a beacon. And yet even in this you remain rooted in simplicity. You know that it all comes back to this: what you say becomes what you live, and what you live becomes what you give. The more you live in this vibration, the more you realize that the outer world is not something separate from you. It is your reflection, your echo, your mirror. It no longer surprises you when the money comes, when the opportunity arrives, when the person calls, when the timing is perfect, because you spoke it, you formed it, you declared it in the silence long before it was seen. And now what once felt miraculous has become normal, not because it has lost its magic, but because you have finally stepped into yours. This is no longer a performance. This is no longer an effort to fake it until it's real. There is nothing fake in your voice anymore. It is real. It is grounded. It is anchored in truth. Your voice is no longer trying to catch up with your dream. Your dream is following the lead of your voice. And you know this rhythm well now. You've lived it. You've tested it. You've refined it. And you've become fluent in it. You understand the creative process now in its purest form. Word becomes thought. Thought becomes feeling. Feeling becomes form. You speak from your wish fulfilled, because you know that speaking from the result creates the result. There is no other way. You don't ask for wealth, you speak as wealth. You don't wait for success. You speak as success. You no longer reach, you resonate. With this realization, the anxiety of the past vanishes like smoke. The fear of how dissolves, because you have learned to live in the now. And in this now everything is possible. You no longer worry about the when or the way. You only concern yourself with the who. And the who is already here. It is you. Not the you that's trying, but the you that is already in possession, already whole, already wealthy. You speak less, but when you do, it carries the weight of conviction. Your voice has become pure influence. Energetic, emotional, magnetic. You've become a living command. And life obeys. Not because you're forceful, but because you're aligned. Not because you manipulate, but because you trust. And trust is the highest vibration of all. Even your body begins to align with this new speech. You carry yourself differently. You dress with greater confidence. Not to impress, but because it reflects who you know yourself to be. You move through the world with presence, because you are no longer seeking, only expressing. People respond to that. They lean in, they listen more closely when you speak. Not because you are louder, but because your vibration now carries the authority of truth. You now understand the secret that was hidden in plain sight all along. Your word is your wand. Every phrase you form is a spell you cast. And whether you're aware of it or not, the spell is always working. Now that you know, you choose to cast spells of prosperity, of power, of peace. You choose to speak what uplifts, what calls in the higher, what rearranges reality in your favor. Through all of this you realize the life of a millionaire was never about money first. It was about mastering the self, mastering the word, mastering the moment. And you have done that not by waiting, but by speaking. Not by watching, but by declaring. Not by trying to force change, but by becoming the change through repetition, imagination and belief. You now live by an inner standard that no longer negotiates with lack. You no longer explain yourself to doubt. You no longer argue with appearances. Your word is final. Your assumption is firm. Your vibration is set. And everything around you bows to the one who has finally remembered that reality begins on the tongue. As your days unfold in this heightened awareness, you begin to see that even time itself seems to favor you. Delays turn into redirections. Setbacks reveal themselves as setups. What once would have caused frustration now evokes a knowing smile. Because the more you speak from power, the more power is returned to you. Life, no longer an opponent to be battled, has become a dance partner. You lead with your voice and life follows your rhythm. You speak wealth and wealth echoes back. You speak peace and peace surrounds you. You speak increase, and increase flows in ways beyond logic, and even the smallest acts, purchasing a coffee, sending a message, entering a room, become charged with the frequency of someone who knows. You are no longer hoping, waiting, trying, or wishing. You are being. You are choosing. You are speaking the invisible into visibility. You are not surprised when others begin to shift just by being in your presence. You notice how the energy changes when you enter the room, how solutions emerge mid-conversation, how opportunities seem to magnetize around you without force, because you are not just speaking differently. You are vibrating differently, and the vibration always precedes the manifestation. You've come to understand the sacredness of your voice, not just as a tool but as a vessel. Through it, divine truth is expressed. Through it, old patterns are broken. Through it, a new world is made manifest. You are no longer careless with your speech, even in moments of play, even in the laughter. You speak with awareness, because you know that each word returns to you, clothed in form. And this responsibility no longer feels like a burden. It feels like freedom. For once you are no longer at the mercy of conditions. You are not waiting for someone to rescue you. You have become your own rescue, your own revelation. You have discovered that nothing is denied to the one who speaks from wholeness. And so you no longer ask for permission to live the life you want. You speak it into existence. And by the very act of speaking, you grant it to yourself. You no longer measure your success in numbers alone. You measure it in the quality of your inner world, in the richness of your emotions, in the peace that greets you when you wake, and the gratitude that follows you into sleep. These are the markers of true wealth: joy, freedom, creativity, ease, and they are all yours, because you chose to assume their presence before the evidence appeared. And now evidence is everywhere, not because the world changed first, but because you did. Because you decided to no longer speak like someone hoping to be wealthy one day. You decided to speak as one who already is. And that shift, so subtle, so powerful, moved mountains the world could not see. It opened doors that logic could not unlock. It drew to you people, places, and paths that intellect could never predict. This is the power that has always been yours, hidden in your own voice, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be used with purpose. And now that you know, you can never go back. You can never again unknow what it feels like to create through speech. You can never again accept the lie of limitation, because you've proven that a single word spoken from belief can change everything. As your awareness deepens and your command sharpens, you live each day not in reaction, but in creation. You are no longer the echo. You are the origin. You no longer imitate. You initiate. And with every word spoken from the state of the wish fulfilled, you become the author of a life that feels destined, yet deliberately chosen. What once felt accidental now feels inevitable, not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned your speech with the truth of your being. You walk into every situation already knowing the outcome, not because you control the details, but because you have already claimed the feeling. You speak from the result, and the steps arrange themselves. You speak from the top of the mountain, and the path beneath your feet rises to meet you. You don't chase results. You radiate the reality from within, and the universe, ever responsive, rushes to match the frequency of your word. Even your inner conversations have changed. You no longer rehearse problems. You declare solutions. You no longer replay the past, you script the future. You are no longer a passive observer in your mind. You are the director, the narrator, the protagonist. And in this mental theater you speak only what you wish to live. You speak as the version of you who already has, already is, already knows.
And with this shift, the war within ceases. The striving stops. The inner critic goes silent. You've replaced doubt with dominion. And now in its place, there is peace. A peace not earned through external success, but inherited through inner clarity. A peace that does not depend on outcomes, but flows from your constant communion with the truth spoken from your own lips. This is the true meaning of speaking like a millionaire. It is not arrogance or performance. It is alignment. It is remembering who you are before the world told you who to be. It is choosing speech that reflects your divine inheritance, not your temporary condition. It is the refusal to speak from limitation, even when circumstances tempt you. It is the sacred discipline of declaring what you desire until what you desire declares itself in form. And what a beautiful way to live. No longer asking, no longer wishing, no longer explaining, just being, just speaking, just allowing your word to become flesh. You have become a vibrational architect, shaping your world not with bricks and mortar, but with sound and certainty. You speak, and invisible structures form around you. Opportunities, relationships, breakthroughs, each one summoned by your inner decree. There is no chaos in this process, only precision. For every word you speak in faith becomes a blueprint drawn by the hand of divine law, and this law never fails. It listens not to your need, but to your assumption. It responds not to desperation, but to declaration. Even in the quiet moments, those spaces between decisions, between actions, you are still speaking, still creating. Your inner voice hums in alignment with abundance. The self-talk that once sabotaged has been replaced with self-talk that sanctifies. You speak to yourself like someone who matters, like someone chosen, like someone chosen, like someone already in possession of the very thing they once chased. And because of this, your world listens differently now. It bends, shifts, transforms to reflect the speech of the one who no longer doubts. You notice how life opens up when you speak from knowing instead of hoping. You see how quickly people, circumstances, and even so-called delays begin to move out of the way, or better yet move in your favor, when your voice carries the energy of certainty. The universe is not testing you, it is echoing you, and you've mastered the echo. You know that every word is a seed, and you've become a faithful sower, not impatient, not nervous, not clinging to the outcome, because you already live in the outcome. You've mastered the art of speaking from the end. You've become so anchored in this truth that external praise or criticism no longer moves you. You are not fueled by applause, nor are you deflated by doubt, because the voice that matters most, the voice that creates, is the one within you. And you've trained that voice. You've cleaned it of fear, rewired it with faith, bathed it in gratitude, and aligned it with vision. You no longer borrow language from your limitations. You borrow language from your fulfilled destiny. And that destiny speaks in you now, as a steady stream. It flows through your conversations, your plans, your declarations. You speak of the future as if it were past. You speak of success as if it were memory. You speak of miracles as if they were mundane, because in your world, they are. You've normalized abundance. You've made peace your default. You've turned overflow into expectation, not exception. This isn't about pretending. It's not about fooling the world. It's about finally unfooling yourself. Finally telling the truth that was buried under years of programming. The truth that you are powerful, that you are worthy, that you are already what you seek to become. And once spoken, that truth begins to rearrange the molecules of your life. Not someday, not eventually, instantly. Because once you vibrate at the level of the answer, the question disappears. And now, with every breath, with every word, with every intention whispered or roared, you are molding the unseen into the seen. You've tapped into the sacred rhythm where word and world are not separate, but one. And as you continue to walk this path, you no longer chase signs, they chase you. You no longer search for confirmation, it arrives before you ask. Because your voice has become a beacon, a signal to the universe that says, I have remembered who I am. There is no effort in this identity. You don't have to strive to maintain it, because it is no longer an act. It is now your natural way of being. You speak from this frequency even when no one is watching. You speak in the privacy of your heart with the same certainty as if the world were listening, because you now know it is listening. Every word is heard. Every feeling is recorded. Every assumption is honored. And so you do not waver. You do not dilute. You do not speak of what you do not want. You have tasted your own power, and it is too sacred to waste. You have seen what happens when you command from wholeness, and you are not going back. You speak with conviction not to impress others, but because your soul recognizes the truth when it hears it. Your voice is not a performance, it is prophecy. And what is a prophecy but a word spoken with unwavering belief in what must be? You now prophesy your wealth, your impact, your joy, not out of wishful thinking, but because you have finally attuned your vibration to the inevitable.
And the inevitable always arrives when it is welcomed in word and honored in feeling. You've understood now that the universe doesn't reward good intentions. It responds to bold declarations. The moment you speak as if it already is, reality must conform, not because you are manipulating it, but because you are no longer resisting it. You've surrendered the voice of the victim and taken up the voice of the visionary. And the visionary is always right, not because they guess the future, but because they create it. Even time itself seems to accelerate in your favor. The distance between speech and manifestation shortens. What once took years now takes weeks. What once required massive effort now flows with ease. Because you've aligned with the secret source of all wealth, the power to speak it into being. You no longer doubt if it works. You know it does. You've lived it. You are it. And still you do not grow complacent, for this isn't the end of your becoming. This is the beginning of a deeper mastery. With every word, you sharpen your awareness. You become more deliberate, more graceful, more precise. Your speech is no longer merely about claiming wealth or success. It becomes an offering, a frequency you contribute to the world. Every phrase a blessing, every conversation a transmission, every thought, now spoken or unspoken, an act of creation reverberating through the fabric of your reality. You see others differently now. You listen to how they speak, and you hear the echoes of their inner worlds. You don't judge them. You understand. You were once there, speaking from fear, from lack, from limitation. But now you recognize that every soul has the same creative power. And through your example, through the quiet strength of your speech, you invite them to rise. You don't try to convince, you embody. And embodiment is irresistible. The world follows those who walk in truth without forcing it. There is a humility that arises from this power, not weakness, but reverence. You know what it means to have shaped your life from the inside out. You've watched mountains move in response to words spoken in silence. You've watched locked doors open without keys. You've witnessed the external reconfigure itself because you refused to conform to its story. And now you carry that knowing like a crown you don't need to show. You don't need to prove anything. The proof is your life. Your voice, once filled with uncertainty, now speaks as a creator. Not loud, not aggressive, just certain, just clear, just true. And the universe, which has always been listening, now bends with eager obedience to your frequency. You speak and it is done. You assume and it appears. You feel and it forms. You are no longer separate from the results. You are the source, the fountain, the origin. And now, as each day begins, you speak not to correct, but to continue. You don't wake up hoping to fix what's broken. You wake up ready to expand what's already whole. You don't ask for change. You be the change in word, in energy, in presence. You speak because it is natural. You speak because it is joy. You speak because creation is your birthright, and you honor it with every syllable shaped in faith. As you continue in this rhythm, something profound unfolds. You begin to speak not just for yourself, but for the future you are birthing into this world. Each declaration carries with it a ripple that extends far beyond your immediate reality. You are no longer just manifesting a lifestyle. You are building a legacy with your words. You're etching new patterns into the collective field, rewriting the possibilities for others simply by standing firm in your truth and voicing the life that already belongs to you in imagination. There is no more begging, no more bargaining, no more trying to convince life to give you what you now realize. It has already handed you through the gift of assumption. The moment you assume it is yours and speak from that assumption, the universe sets it in motion with unwavering fidelity. And you've come to love this law, not because it makes life easy, but because it makes life yours. You've reclaimed the authorship. You no longer read from someone else's script. You write your own, word by word, moment by moment, reality by reality. You've become fluent in the language of manifestation, and that language is made of certainty. You don't dilute your speech with conditions like if, maybe, or hopefully. Those words no longer belong in your vocabulary. They carry the vibration of doubt, and doubt has no home in the consciousness of a creator. You don't speak to test the waters. You speak to part the sea, even when appearances challenge you. Even when the old world tries to reassert itself. You do not flinch. You do not fold. You do not let temporary shadows make you forget the light you now command. You double down. You declare even louder in the silence of your own being. You speak as if, until as if becomes as is. because it always does, because it must, because law cannot be broken, only ignored, and you've chosen never to ignore it again. Every time you open your mouth, every time you entertain a thought, every time you allow yourself to feel the end as now, you are bringing form to the formless. You are causing the invisible to take on shape. You are collapsing the delay between desire and realization, and you are doing it without strain, without struggle, without needing to be noticed. You are doing it from within, where all true power lives. This practice is no longer something you remind yourself to do. It is who you are. It has become effortless, like breathing. You no longer need rituals to prepare yourself to speak like the millionaire you are, because that identity is no longer separate from you. It is your essence. You speak wealth, not just for its outer expression, but because wealth is the natural outpouring of your inner abundance. You don't force gratitude. You are gratitude. You don't recite affirmations. You embody them. Every cell in your body resonates with the truth of your word, because you have finally come into agreement with yourself. When the world shows you contrast, when circumstances attempt to whisper something less, you do not react. You respond, not with panic, but with power. You remind yourself who you are through the words you speak. You declare your chosen outcome with a stillness so profound that the storm dissolves before it even touches you. Your speech no longer escalates chaos. It calms it. Because your word is now law, not just in your mind, but in your atmosphere.
The people around you begin to notice, not because you boast, but because you radiate. You don't need to explain your transformation. They feel it. They feel it in the peace that precedes you, in the certainty that anchors you, in the way things seem to just work around you. They sense the quiet command in your tone, the unshakable knowing in your presence. And some will ask, what changed? They won't always understand that it began with a whisper in your mind, a whisper you dared to believe, dared to speak, dared to live. You've become the proof that it works, not just for some, not just for those who were born into wealth or gifted lucky breaks, but for anyone willing to claim the truth and live from it. You've shown that no matter the past, no matter the obstacles, no matter how far removed the goal may seem, when you speak from the state of already having, the world bends to meet it. And now, your voice is no longer bound to wishes. It's bound to decisions. You speak, and it is so. You command, and it appears. You assume, and it becomes. Because your voice, when aligned with belief, is divine, and nothing can stand against the divine. So this rhythm continues, deepening with every passing day. What began as a shift in language has now become a shift in consciousness. Your entire being speaks now, not just your voice, but your posture, your energy, your presence. You move through life as one who already possesses everything they once longed for. And because of this inner possession, the outer world continues to yield. It cannot help but obey the one who no longer questions, no longer doubts, no longer speaks as if the power is outside themselves. You speak as the master of your fate, not the victim of circumstance. You speak with ease, because there is no more resistance. There is only allowance. There is only alignment. There is only the ever-deepening realization that you were never waiting on life. Life was waiting on you to remember. And now you have. You've remembered through speech, through feeling, through the sacred act of living from the end. You no longer fear delay, because delay has lost its meaning. Time has become your servant, not your oppressor. You speak, and you know. And in that knowing you are free. Free to choose. Free to change. Free to receive. You no longer speak to survive. You speak to create. And creation is joy. It is movement. It is the divine game that you now play, with full awareness of your role. Every morning is a new opportunity to speak new realities into motion. Every evening is a sacred reflection on the manifestations that your speech has initiated. And through it all you remain anchored, not in effort, but in identity. Not in pressure, but in presence. Not in striving, but in speaking from a place so deep, so true, that nothing outside of you can shake it. This is not temporary. This is not fragile. This is not fragile. This is who you are now. You've become fluent in the language of certainty, fluent in the frequency of wealth, fluent in the vibration of fulfilled desire. And in this fluency you have found your power, not loud, not forceful, but steady, like the rising sun that never asks for permission to shine.
It simply is. And so are you. Your every word is now sacred, not because someone told you it should be, but because you have witnessed the miracle of your own becoming. You have watched reality bow to the authority of your assumption. You have experienced the material world rearrange itself, not through struggle, not through relentless effort, but through the invisible movements set in motion by the sound of your certainty. The spoken word infused with belief has become your most faithful servant. You do not rush, you do not force, you do not plead, for you have realized that life does not respond to begging, it responds to embodiment, and you are now fully embodied in the truth that what you say from the state of the wish fulfilled must be. You are no longer rehearsing the future. You are releasing it through your voice. You are giving it life. You are breathing into it with such confidence, such peace, that the lines between what is real and what is imagined have disappeared entirely. What was once fantasy is now memory. What was once distant is now normal. The world which once seemed so rigid now feels soft in your hands, malleable, responsive, intelligent. It hears you. It echoes you. It shapes itself to match your speech. You say, I am, and creation begins. You say it is done, and invisible doors swing open. You say, I have, and life delivers what was already yours in consciousness. This is not magic. It is law. It is structure. It is eternal truth, finally rediscovered. You no longer measure your success by what can be seen, but by how deeply you've surrendered to what is felt. You no longer wait for evidence. You are the evidence. And because of that, your life speaks even when your mouth is still. It speaks through your posture, your energy, your peace. People feel the shift in you. They can't explain it, but they are drawn to it, curious about it, inspired by it. And in their presence, you don't need to convince them. You only need to be. You have become a lighthouse, not by trying but by being. You shine because you speak from within. You lead because you are no longer searching. You overflow because you are no longer asking. You speak like a millionaire, not because of a bank account, but because you've remembered that wealth is not something you acquire. It is something you allow, and your voice is the key that opens the gates. As you walk through your day, you do not waver. The external may shift, the scenery may change, but your inner dialogue remains steady. You no longer look to appearances to determine your direction. You no longer ask the outer world to validate your inner knowing. You have tasted something more real than what eyes can see. You have touched the substance of things hoped for and felt the evidence of things not seen. And in this stillness, you speak with power. You no longer wonder when it will happen, because you know it already has. The moment you spoke, it is done. The moment you felt, it is true. The unseen began to crystallize. The rest is just time catching up with the vibration you already planted. So you do not speak to make it happen. You speak because it has already happened. You declare it not for motivation, but for confirmation. Your words are no longer efforts to believe. They are the outpouring of belief fully matured. This shift is irreversible. Once you've spoken from the state of being instead of the state of lack, the taste of that power never leaves you. You cannot go back to pleading. You cannot go back to wishing. You cannot go back to hoping. You've crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Now your speech is a declaration of dominion, not over others, not over the world, but over yourself, over your own consciousness. And that, above all, is true mastery. You've understood that the most powerful words are often the quietest. The soft I am spoken in the stillness of your heart has the power to reorder your entire life. A whispered it is done has more weight than 1,000 loud declarations filled with doubt. For it is not volume that creates, it is vibration. And your vibration now speaks louder than any external noise. You are no longer trying to get anything from the world. You are now expressing what is already true within you. You no longer speak from emptiness. You speak from overflow. And in that overflow you give others permission to do the same. Not through advice, not through instruction, but through example, through embodiment, through the unwavering presence of someone who has remembered how this game is played. So you continue not to become but to reveal what already is. Not to chase but to welcome. Not to ask but to accept. Your words, your tone, your intention, all of it flows from the deep well of certainty within you. And that certainty speaks louder than fear, louder than circumstances, louder than the past. You now realize that the true riches were never just the things you could touch or spend or hold, but the authority you reclaimed over your own consciousness. The ability to choose your words with such clarity, such intention, that they build the world you want to live in. Your vocabulary has changed because your vision has expanded. You no longer speak like the version of you that was waiting for change. You speak like the version of you who knows change responds to you. You speak not to fill space but to summon form. Each word is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your belief, and you trust the harvest completely. Your relationship with speech has become sacred. You no longer speak idly. You no longer give life to complaints, to fears, to doubt. You've learned that your words are not commentary. They are commands. They are instruments of transformation. And because you honor them, they now honor you. They go out and return multiplied. They carve pathways where none existed. They make ways where there were only walls. There is now a lightness in your expression, not from naivety, but from mastery. You know the truth, and the truth has made you free. You don't need to argue, to explain, to defend. You simply speak, and your reality unfolds to match. You walk into rooms and feel the atmosphere shift, not because you try, but because your presence now carries a resonance shaped by the words you've spoken in silence and in power. People sense it. Opportunities respond to it. Life organizes itself around it. When challenges arise, and they still do, you do not fall back into the old speech patterns. You rise. You remember. You speak as one who has already overcome. You don't describe the mountain. You move it. You don't echo the problem. You declare the solution. You are no longer a reactor. You are a creator. And your world listens, not because it must, but because it recognizes the voice of someone who has remembered they are the source. Every word you speak is now a portal, a bridge, a spark of divine architecture. You speak with reverence, knowing that reality is listening, not critically, but creatively. And because you have trained yourself to speak from the end, you live from the end. There is no more waiting, no more striving, no more pretending. There is only speaking from the state, and watching the state reveal itself in perfect poetic timing. So as the days unfold, you no longer measure life by what enters your bank account, or what titles you carry, or what others say about you. You measure it by how faithfully you have spoken your inner world into being. You measure it by how aligned your words are with your vision, how congruent your speech is with your spirit. You no longer settle for idle chatter. You no longer entertain stories that contradict your truth, even in silence. Your inner dialogue continues its sacred work, shaping the unseen with the same clarity and precision as your spoken voice. You carry this power into every moment, into every conversation, into every breath. And without needing to try, you uplift the frequency of everything around you. You've become a steward of truth, not in theory but in practice. You've become the embodiment of what it means to speak from wealth, from fullness, from knowing. Not because someone handed you success, but because you spoke it. Consistently, courageously, with unwavering faith, and reality responded as it always does, with a mirror held up to your dominant inner tone.
This way of living has now taken root in you. It has become your natural state. No longer a technique, no longer a discipline. It is who you are. And because you have chosen to speak from the highest version of yourself, life reflects that version back to you in infinite forms. Opportunities, relationships, abundance, peace. What once seemed distant is now your everyday experience. Because your speech aligned with your identity, and your identity became magnetic. You no longer just speak like a millionaire. You are the consciousness of wealth, made flesh through word and awareness. You speak not to convince yourself, but to celebrate what already is. And in this joy, in this depth, in this radiant presence, the world cannot help but respond. It must bend to your voice, because your voice now carries the frequency of someone who has remembered the eternal truth, that the Word was and still is the beginning of all creation. You find yourself now walking not in the hope of becoming, but in the fulfillment of already being. You've stopped speaking to bridge the gap between here and there, because you've realized there is no gap. The moment you declare it, from the state of knowing, it is. Time becomes a gentle unfolding, rather than a desperate chase. You don't look forward in anticipation, nor backward in regret. You stand in the center of your creation, grounded, clear, whole. There is an ease now,
an effortlessness. You don't rush to declare things out of fear that they won't happen. You speak with the poise of someone who knows the world is catching up to a vision that's already settled in spirit. And because you no longer need to see it before you believe it, you see it everywhere. You've turned your word into a vibration so strong, so consistent, that it echoes through every encounter, every transaction, every doorway you pass through. Others may still look for the strategy, the steps, the formula. But you have discovered the secret hidden in plain sight, that you are the strategy, that your inner speech creates more in a moment than months of outward effort. You have entered the stream of divine causation, and from this place, everything flows to you, not as reward, but as reflection. You are no longer asking for what you want. You are announcing it. You are no longer hoping to become. You are revealing what already is. You are no longer trying to create from scratch. You are speaking from the completed vision and allowing it to manifest in perfect form. You've learned that the world outside is just a printout of the words you whisper within. You speak now with reverence, with fire, with certainty. You know who you are, and the universe knows it too. This knowing lives in your voice now. It pulses through your tone, through the rhythm of your language, through every I am. You proclaim with calm conviction. You no longer speak of becoming rich. You speak as the richness itself. You no longer declare goals. You describe realities. You do not reach, you radiate. And this radiation calls all things to it, naturally, harmoniously, without strain or demand. Your life becomes a current, a gravitational pull, not because you chase, but because you express. You express your identity through effortless speech, and in doing so you authorize the universe to carry out what you've declared. No part of you is waiting for proof anymore. You are the proof. You walk through life clothed in completion, knowing that speech rooted in true belief is more powerful than 1,000 actions taken in fear. Your every sentence now arises from a center of deep stillness and knowing. That stillness speaks louder than noise. That knowing vibrates through dimensions unseen, weaving together the threads of your new life, even as you go about your day in peace. What once felt like a performance now feels like truth. What once felt like practice now feels like your natural state. You've mastered the subtle art of speaking not as a means to an end, but as a mirror of your being. And because your being is abundant, your words can't help but produce after their kind. The harvest must match the seed. The result must match the root. You've stopped arguing with appearances, because you've stopped believing they hold authority. Your authority lies within, where speech is born, where thought is shaped, where identity is declared. You wake in the morning and feel it. You speak and the air around you changes. You listen and hear things differently, no longer with the ears of lack, but with the ears of fulfillment. And in this new hearing, this new speaking, this new way of being, you become the architect of the reality that others only dream of. Not because you forced it, but because you finally spoke from the state where it already exists. Now every word you speak is not just communication, it is creation. You've discovered that your voice is not a tool for describing life, but for commanding it. There is no more wavering in your tone, no more hesitation in your declarations. You are no longer looking for evidence, because you have become it. You've shifted from the echo to the source, from the follower to the initiator, from the one who waits to the one who calls things forth. And because of that, life rushes to meet you, not with resistance, but with recognition. You've trained your mind to think in terms of completion. You've trained your emotions to feel the end as already achieved. And you've trained your tongue to speak from that finished place. It's no longer about faking it. It's about feeling it. It's not about pretending. It's about embodying. You're not trying to impress others, or even yourself. You're simply expressing the truth that has always been within you, the truth that was buried under years of conditioning, fear, and limitation. But now that truth has been unearthed. It has been spoken. And once spoken, it cannot be silenced. Every conversation, every affirmation, every silent word you whisper before sleep is now part of the architecture of your new world. And as you continue to speak from the frequency of fulfillment, your reality cannot help but shift. Not because of luck, and not because of chance, but because that's how this reality works. It mirrors, it echoes, it reflects. And you have finally learned to speak in a way that's worth reflecting. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be dramatic. All you need to be is certain. And in that certainty, your voice becomes a blueprint for destiny. You've merged belief and language. You've unified inner vision with outer expression. You are no longer divided within yourself. And because of that unity, your words now hold power. Not someday, not when circumstances change, but now. In this very moment, your voice is rewriting your future, sentence by sentence. You walk now as one who knows the invisible is more real than the visible. You no longer need to force or convince or manipulate outcomes. Your speech has become an offering, not a request. You speak to remind yourself of who you are, not to plead with life to give you what you already own in consciousness. You are no longer a beggar at the gates of your dreams. You are the king or queen who speaks and watches gates open. Doors no longer represent barriers. They are invitations. And each time you speak from the state of wealth, confidence and wholeness, another door swings wide. There is a rhythm now, a divine rhythm in your speech, that aligns with the heartbeat of the universe. You are no longer out of sync with abundance. You beat in harmony with it. You feel the timing, not through logic but through inner certainty. You don't rush, because nothing is missing. You don't delay, because nothing is uncertain. You say yes to what aligns, and no without guilt to what doesn't. Your speech no longer seeks approval, it reflects awareness. And from this awareness, your life blossoms without effort. Where once your words were scattered with doubt, they now flow in a single stream of power. You no longer contradict your vision with casual statements of fear. You no longer sabotage your future with careless language. You are intentional. You are focused. You are calm. You know the force that moves mountains resides not in the external world, but in the sustained tone of your inner word. You don't need to ask how, because you've become more interested in who. And that who is the one who already has, already is, already knows. You are fluent now in the language of the fulfilled. Your speech doesn't reflect the struggle, it reveals the outcome. Your tone doesn't rise and fall with the day, it is anchored in eternity. The inner conversations that once ran wild with worry now sing with assurance. You are no longer rehearsing failure. You are remembering success. Every cell in your body listens to your words, and it obeys. Every step you take is guided by the voice that declared, "It is done," and believed it fully. Because of this transformation, even the way the world responds to you has changed. People feel something different when you speak, not because of the volume of your words, but because of the substance behind them. There is authority in your tone now, not the authority of dominance, but of divine alignment. You no longer speak to compete, you speak to create. You do not use your words to push or pull, but to command with love and clarity. You have embodied the truth that your voice is a vibration of creation, and creation always answers. There's a sacred stillness behind your speech now, a stillness that does not rush, does not chase, does not grasp. You are no longer driven by lack, because lack no longer has a place in your consciousness. The echo of old beliefs, old doubts, and old conversations has fallen silent. In their place, your new speech rises like a steady drumbeat, announcing to all of reality, "I know who I am, I know what I have, I know what I deserve." And because you speak from that deep place of identity, the world bows in response, not out of obligation, but out of recognition. You've stepped into the inner wealth that precedes the outer riches. You've remembered that speaking like a millionaire isn't about mimicking wealth. It's about speaking from the knowing that you are wealth, that your being is enough, that your inner speech is the spark and the flame. You've reversed the order of cause and effect. Where once you waited for the world to tell you who to be, now you tell the world through the way you speak, think, and move. Your life has become an echo of your convictions, a mirror of your consistency, a reflection of your inner declarations. This is not something you switch on and off. It's no longer a technique. It has become your way of living, breathing, speaking. When you rise in the morning, your first words are aligned with your vision. When you move through the day, your inner dialogue is supportive, focused, expansive. And when you rest at night, your final thoughts are soaked in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You live in this loop of alignment, not because you are trying hard, but because you've become the very frequency of your desire. Your life has become proof that nothing outside of you holds the key. The words you now speak come from the place within where the treasure has always been buried, not in gold or material signs, but in identity, in knowing, in imagination. You no longer search for the symbols of wealth. You recognize yourself as the source. And from that recognition, wealth in every form begins to gather ideas, people, opportunities, sudden shifts in your reality that others call miracles. But to you they are simply the unfolding of what you've already accepted as true. There is no more begging in your tone, no pleading, no wishing, no trying to convince yourself. You are done entertaining if, maybe and hopefully. You've replaced them with the quiet power of I am, it is and I have. You don't speak to see if things will change. You speak because they already have. And because you are anchored in that unseen truth, the seen world follows, rearranging itself moment by moment to match your dominant inner speech.
The mirror no longer reflects confusion. It reflects clarity. It no longer reflects uncertainty. It reflects conviction. You've trained the inner dialogue to serve your highest vision. And now it rewards you with peace, with precision, with results. You've eliminated contradiction in your mind. And so contradiction has vanished from your life. Where there was once chaos, now there is structure. Where there was once hesitation, now there is boldness. You have chosen your identity deliberately, and you maintain it with every word you utter. Others begin to notice, not just what you say, but how you say it. They sense the weight behind your words, the calm certainty that can't be faked. They're drawn to it, not because of charisma, but because your voice carries the vibration of someone who lives in truth. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. Your presence speaks even in silence. And when you do speak, the words land. They stick. They shift energy. Because they are born from a place that is rooted, settled, decided. You no longer bounce between possibilities. You choose and speak from the choice. And life bows to choice. It does not obey confusion. It responds to certainty. And your speech is now a daily declaration of who you are, where you stand and what reality must align to. Every word is a seed, and you speak it knowing that the harvest is guaranteed. You're no longer surprised when things go your way. You expect it. Not arrogantly, but righteously, because your expectation is no longer built on hope, it's built on inner truth. This expectation becomes your atmosphere. You carry it with you into every room, every call, every decision. You no longer question whether you're ready. You've already declared that you are. You don't wait for signs to tell you you're on the right path. You've spoken the path into existence. And now you walk it as one who belongs. That belonging is no longer something you seek. It's something you embody. Your words confirm it, your actions reflect it, and your world bows to it. There is nothing outside of you determining your future anymore. You've reclaimed that power with every inner sentence you now repeat in silence or aloud. And you know this power doesn't need to shout. It whispers with divine certainty. The volume isn't what matters. The state behind the words is what shapes your world. And because you remain in the state of already having, already being, already knowing, your speech becomes a tool of creation instead of a reaction to circumstance. You've stepped out of the loop of seeking and stepped into the rhythm of finding. Not because you stumbled upon luck, but because you stopped contradicting yourself with words of doubt. Your speech is now a straight line, clean, clear, committed. You don't double back. You don't rehearse failure. You don't joke about being broke, or unlucky, or overlooked, because you know that every joke becomes a prophecy when spoken enough. You speak as one whose every word is a brick in the house of your future. So you guard your speech, not from fear, but from reverence. You don't speak to vent anymore. You speak to declare. You don't speak to fill silence. You speak to shift atmosphere. You don't speak for validation. You speak from completion. You've trained your mind to hear yourself as the first audience. And so now, every time you speak, you build something, even when no one else is around, especially then. Because you've realized the most powerful words are the ones whispered, when no one is listening, but you and the infinite. Your private speech has changed. Your idle thoughts have changed. The way you speak to yourself when you're walking alone or lying in bed has become sacred ground. And because you've made your inner conversation match your outer vision, the world has no choice but to follow. That's the law. That's the way. And now you're walking it, not once in a while, not when you remember, but as a way of being. The old patterns have dissolved. The old vocabulary has been retired. The old narrative no longer feels like home.
Now your words feel like home. Your imagination feels like home. Your conviction has become your resting place, not your effort. You no longer hype yourself up. You settle into truth. You don't need adrenaline. You have alignment. And that alignment, expressed in calm, unwavering speech, has made you magnetic. What once took force now arrives through flow. What once required hustle now comes through harmony. Because your voice is no longer the voice of someone trying. It's the voice of someone who already is. You now understand that to speak like a millionaire is not about mimicking wealth with borrowed phrases or surface-level affirmations. It is about tuning your words to the deep resonance of one who already knows the outcome. It is about speaking from a consciousness of completion. There is no effort in your speech anymore. There is no pretending, no rehearsing. There is only the steady, confident tone of someone whose inner reality has already shifted, and therefore the outer must obey. You've stopped trying to convince others of your future because you no longer doubt it yourself. The need to prove has vanished. The need to defend your vision is gone. You don't argue for your limitations, you've buried them. You don't explain your dreams in search of permission, you speak of them as lived experience. Your voice carries the essence of inevitability, and those around you feel it, even if they don't understand it. They sense that something has changed in you, not from the words alone, but from the place those words are spoken from. You've come to realize that words are not just for communication, they are vehicles of vibration. Every word you speak sends out a signal, a frequency that life responds to without fail. And so now, your speech has become refined, purified, intentional. You've trimmed away the noise, the filler, the disempowering phrases you once used without thinking. Now each word is selected like a craftsman, selecting the finest tool. You speak with precision, with care, and most of all with faith. You've seen the evidence, not because you waited for it, but because you became it. You saw the shift in how people treat you. You felt the change in how money flows to you. You noticed the increase in opportunities, synchronicities, and divine timing. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Your inner world became so clear, so constant, so convinced, that reality had no choice but to mirror it. And it started, not with action but with language, with speech, with the thoughts you spoke out loud and the ones you whispered inside. You now protect your language like treasure, because you know it is. You don't waste words on fear. You don't narrate struggle anymore. You speak from power, and you speak into power. And when something appears that contradicts your vision, you don't react, you redirect. You affirm the truth instead. You return to your declaration. You hold the frequency. You remain loyal to the speech of your desired reality, not the one passing before your eyes. Because you know now the scene may change, but the script is yours. There is no more drifting back into the old voice, the voice of doubt, of lack, of waiting. That voice has been silenced, not by force, but by the consistency of your new identity. You've overwritten the old script with one that aligns, uplifts, and manifests. And now your words are not just affirmations, they are assumptions. You don't affirm to make something true. You affirm because it is true. The power lies not in the statement itself, but in the place from which you say it.
Even when circumstances momentarily contradict your vision, you do not let them write your dialogue. You've trained yourself to speak from state, not from sight. You don't describe what is, you declare what is becoming. And because you are anchored in the invisible, the visible bends to meet you. That bending may come through people, events, or sudden shifts in your reality. But you do not flinch. You nod quietly and say, "Of course, I spoke this. I knew this. I prepared room for this." And when others speak against your vision, you do not argue. You do not defend. You simply continue speaking your own reality. Because you are no longer invested in external agreement. You don't need it. You are not building your world by committee. You are not assembling your future through consensus. You've gone within, and you've seen. And what you've seen you speak, not to convince others, but to keep yourself aligned, to remain faithful to the blueprint within. You do not water it down. You do not translate your truth for the comfort of others. You speak it clearly, fully, and with conviction. Because of this, your world now feels like home. Not because everything is perfect on the surface, but because your inner speech has become your dwelling place. You live in the tone of the fulfilled,
You walk through life with the calm assurance of one who knows the script is written, and it ends in abundance. You are not waiting for results to feel successful. You are speaking success into every moment, and the results simply follow the resonance. This is mastery, not of the world, but of yourself. Mastery over thought, emotion, and most of all, over the words that create worlds. You have become a conscious speaker, and therefore a conscious creator. You no longer treat speech casually. You don't say what you don't mean. You don't joke about misfortune. You don't curse your path or question your power. You have made your mouth a gate through which only truth may pass. And in doing so, you have become the living embodiment of the very reality you once dreamed of. Now your words no longer dissipate into the air. They crystallize into form. You can feel it. When you speak, the atmosphere shifts. When you affirm, the energy around you responds. You're not trying to force things into existence. You're simply aligning with what has always been waiting for your agreement. You've realized that all possibilities exist now, and the one you experience is determined by the frequency of your internal dialogue. You've chosen wealth. You've chosen abundance. You've chosen fulfillment. And now your speech flows effortlessly from that decision. There's no longer any resistance in you when you say, I am wealthy, or I am successful, or money flows to me easily and consistently. These aren't just phrases anymore, they're facts. And you feel the resonance of that truth every time you say them. Not because the evidence showed up first, but because you chose to feel it before the evidence. You became the frequency of the result, and the result bowed to your certainty. That's the secret the world calls magic. But for you, it's simply alignment. This is why you no longer rush. You no longer panic. You no longer speak from fear of time running out or opportunities passing by. You've realized that all things are drawn to you by your word, your vibration, your assumption. You don't need to chase, because what belongs to you is magnetized by your identity. And your identity is anchored by your speech. You do not beg reality anymore. You command it gently, lovingly, and with unwavering authority. Even in moments of contrast, you don't flinch. You've trained your mind to pause and realign. You've learned to say, this too is rearranging for my good. You've made it a habit to speak the solution before the problem completes its sentence. And this is why doors open for you where others see walls. This is why abundance finds you in ways that make no logical sense. Because your voice is now the voice of harmony, not discord. Creation, not confusion. Truth, not tension. You've stepped into the real secret that you are the speaker, the scripter, and the performer of this life. And because you've stopped outsourcing your power, the world has started moving for you. Not because you shout the loudest, but because your quiet inner confidence has become louder than circumstance. You no longer waver between identities. You've chosen, and you've remained loyal to that choice. You are no longer speaking about the future as some far-off possibility. You're living it now, word by word, thought by thought. Your tone now carries the authority of completion. Every word you speak, whether to others or to yourself, emerges from a state that no longer negotiates with the past. You are not trying to fix anything. You are not attempting to correct a broken story. You are declaring a new one, fully formed, vibrant, and alive. Your old vocabulary, the language of struggle, of one day, of maybe, has been replaced with the language of now. You don't speak of waiting. You speak of receiving. You don't speak of becoming, you speak from being. And because you do, your life bends with precision. What once took months now takes moments. What once required effort now unfolds through ease. You understand now that the universe is not responding to what you want. It is responding to what you say. And more than that, it is responding to what you believe when you say it. There is no more split in you. Your words and your belief are married. They are one. And in that unity, creation is effortless. People notice something different about you, but they can't quite place it. They feel your clarity. They feel your poise. They feel your presence. It's not about money in your account. It's about the wealth you radiate before a dollar even shows up. Because that's who you've become. You don't carry the frequency of someone climbing towards success. You carry the frequency of someone who already is. You don't need external validation anymore, because your inner world has already crowned you. You don't over-explain your choices. You don't narrate your progress to gain sympathy or applause. You simply move. You simply speak. You speak in alignment, and therefore you walk in alignment. You no longer speak to describe the mountain. You speak to move it. You no longer repeat the facts of your life. You declare the truth of your being. And the truth is this: you are already that which you seek to become. The moment you speak from that place, life arranges itself to make it visible. You understand now why certain things once eluded you. They couldn't find you while you were speaking from lack. But the moment your speech shifted, so did the current. What once felt stuck began to flow. What once seemed distant began to approach. And now it happens without strain. Your speech is no longer a strategy. It is your signature. It is the evidence of your transformation. You no longer ask life to show you signs. You speak as the sign. You are the signal. You are the cause. And every effect that follows confirms it. And so now you no longer speak to get. You speak because you have. You no longer use words to seek permission. You use them to command reality with grace. You are no longer echoing the language of the world around you. You have become the origin, the source, the voice of a new world being formed through every word you speak. Every sentence is sacred. Every phrase is prophetic. Every word you utter is a brushstroke on the masterpiece of your life. The world has ears, and it listens to the one who speaks from the throne, not from the shadows. You sit upon that throne now, not in arrogance but in truth. You don't speak as a beggar. You speak as a builder. You don't speak to describe the world. You speak to create it. From this day forward you understand. Speak like a millionaire, and your life will follow. Speak like someone who already is, and the world will rearrange itself to match. Let your words be rich before your pockets are. Let your speech be full before the evidence arrives. Because the one who speaks with conviction does not wait for proof. They become it. You are that one now, and everything is already on its way, because you said so, and that is enough.